Welcome to Blockchain Recorded, the podcast for the tech curious, where we talk about anything and everything related to the exponentially evolving crypto, blockchain, and Web 3.0 space. Our mission is simple: to share knowledge, facilitate discourse, and help evolve education in blockchain fundamentals, decentralization solutions, and relevant use cases for today's digital economy. We at Blockchain Recorded are not registered investment advisors and do not deal with financial or trading token elements, nor offer any licensed financial services. The content of this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only, while the opinions of all parties involved are their own. I'm your host, Nina Cerar, and now let's talk blockchain. Before we begin, this podcast is possible by our sponsor at Ambire. The Ambire wallet is one of the top products in crypto asset management. It is the first open source, non-custodial smart wallet that delivers exceptional user experience combined with solid security. With Ambire Wallet, users can easily navigate the world of Web3. It comes packed with features like built-in swaps, cross-chain bridges, integrated earning opportunities, and more. In addition, Ambire offers things like human-readable transaction parsing, eliminating ERC20 approvals and front-running protection. The smart wallet uses gas abstractions that allow for unique features like paying for gas with stable coins. Users can batch multiple transactions to save time and gas fees. The wallet also supports NFTs and allows you to connect to any dApp via Wallet Connect. You can use it with an email and password or add hardware wallets or hot wallets as signers to upgrade your security. And the best part, Ambire speaks human. The UI is friendly and informative, ensuring you understand what you're doing and eliminating risks for mistakes. Ambire Wallet users are currently eligible for continuous wallet token rewards. To learn more and get your Ambire account today, visit www.ambire.com. That is AMBIRE.com. So before I introduce our guest today, I have a couple of brief updates for our community. Going forward, we invite everyone to join us on Twitter Spaces, where we will pre-stream each episode the day before publishing it on all of our distribution channels. We also have an NFT program with Blockchain Recorded Community NFTs. These can be claimed from our webpage, blockchainrecorded.com. So visit our website, check it out, and follow us on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube for new updates and potential airdrops. So with that in mind, today I host Julien Genestoux. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
You did that very well.
Thanks. The founder and CEO of Unlock Protocol. Julien is a longtime software engineer and entrepreneur, having built 2 profitable startups, one of which he sold to Medium. His pre-Unlock experiences include advising Gimlet Media and joining Medium as the lead engineer. So without further ado, Julien, welcome to Blockchain Recorded.
Thank you very much for having me, Nina. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. Julien, you obviously, from what I mentioned, you have a rich entrepreneurial background. You founded 2 startups, sold one to Medium. Can you take us through your journey and tell us more about this experience?
Absolutely. So first of all, I'm pretty more of an accidental entrepreneur. I never actually meant to be an entrepreneur. The first enterprise or company that I created when I was a student myself. It was the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was looking for a summer job. And everybody at the time, it was kind of the first big tech bubble. Everybody was like, oh, everything is online, everything is on the internet, you can just do this. And so I was like, well, I'm going to look for my summer job on the internet. And I really couldn't find anything. So I was like, maybe that's a sign. Maybe I should try to create something, and that's going to be my summer job. And so I created a job étudiant, which literally means a job student in French. And at the time, I didn't really intend it to be a commercial thing. That's why I actually picked the .net domain name, because it felt cooler than the .com, which is like just for corporations.
Right.
Anyway, so created job étudiant, and really without any expectations. It was kind of like don't say a toy, because I did it for real, but it was not, I didn't expect it to be anything. It wasn't a company, it was just a website. I bought the domain name, I bought the hosting myself. And then after a couple of months, McDonald's, which I assume was the biggest company in the world. It wasn't, but in my mind of a student, it's like the biggest company in the world, started to put job offers on the website. And that really is when I started to realize the magic of the internet, that permissionless system where a random high schooler, early student can actually create a website, and all of a sudden McDonald's put job offers on this. Really, that showed to me how permissionless innovation, and it wasn't that innovative, but like permissionless entrepreneurship was possible with the internet. I didn't have to create a company. I didn't have to have an office. I didn't have to have a bank account. I didn't do any of these things. I just created a website, and all of a sudden, it's useful for someone uses it. For me, that is the promise of the internet, and that's how I felt, I fell down the rabbit hole of the permissionless web.
Very cool. It's pretty avant-garde for, because you mentioned this was, what was this, like 20 years ago? So early 2000s?
Oh, yeah, early 2000s, exactly right.
I think we're of a similar generation. So yeah, very avant-garde. So my next question, very cliche. So what brought you to then Web3?
Oh.
How did your journey evolve from there?
Oh, there's a lot of steps in between, obviously. But yeah, so actually, I created that website, and then I was a student, and my dad at the time was like, "Yeah, this is a toy." I mean, he's like, "Oh, maybe I can do the business." It's like, "Nah, not really. It's a toy." So I was like, "Okay, well, I'll keep studying. I guess I stayed in school, and I got a degree in computer science." Mm-hmm. And then actually, the funny thing about this, at some point I was like, you know what, maybe I could make money with it. So I started to put ads, and it was the beginning of Google AdSense. I think it was 2004. So I put ads on it, and the first month we made between $6,000 and $7,000.
Oh wow!
Which was kind of pretty significant.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a company at the time, so it was like I just put the check on my own bank account. And my dad at the time, who still had access to my bank account, was like, "What is going on here? You where's the money coming from?" And it's like, "No, don't worry, Dad. This is actually a cool thing," because I'd done some stupid stuff when I was a teenager. It's like, "Don't worry, this time it's all good." It's like, no, it's not all good. You can't actually put checks on your bank account from a company, Google, and so you have to create a company. You have to think of it as a business. And so I actually went for 1 year and get an entrepreneurship degree in some way out of a business school in France, where I learned about accounting and finance and marketing and all of these things that as an engineer I was like, but I actually found it more interesting than I anticipated. And eventually that kind of made me realize, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to do businesses. I want to create companies that are using the internet and making taking advantage of this new powerful medium. I moved to San Francisco because that was Mecca, and I wanted to be there.
Right.
So I moved to San Francisco, and then when I was there, I created my second company, which was still called Superfeeder. And the idea behind Superfeeder is there's this open protocol called RSS. And if you're listening to this as a podcast, you might not know of RSS, but it's actually thanks to RSS that you listen to this. It stands for really simple syndication. And it's a data format that allows websites to exchange information in a standard way. So basically, you're listening to this episode in a podcast application, and it's actually fetching the information from a server, maybe Apple, maybe Spotify, maybe directly from the blockchain recorded website. And the format that it uses to download that information is actually called RSS. And so I created this company called Superfeeder to make it easy for anyone to publish and consume RSS feeds. It was created in 2009, and roughly was the same time that Twitter and Facebook started to become popular-ish. I'd say popular in some specific circles, not as big as they are today, obviously, but started to be popular. And for me, it was like the open version of this, because an RSS feed allows me to follow someone remotely from their website, follow a publisher site, follow maybe some data stream of weather information, and so really kind of remote follow things. And this RSS protocol is really a decentralized version of what Twitter and Facebook were building. And again, with my mind of like the internet is magic, decentralized should win all the time. And unfortunately, that turned out not to be true. Superfeeder, even though it was profitable, didn't really grow that much. Eventually, I sold it to one of our biggest customers, Medium.com, as you said earlier. And I kept wondering why the decentralized web was not winning in that example. And that really how I eventually came to Web3, because I realized that if you think about the internet, everything was monetized with attention, with ads. And, every business, every content creation is monetized with, or has been for the longest time, monetized with ads. And if you think about this from an advertiser's perspective, if you're, say, a big airline company, a big McDonald's again, and you want to spend $1 billion in ads on the internet, it is so much easier to go to Facebook or to go to Google than to go to 1,000 small sites and each give them a little bit of the money. And so that means that the decentralized internet is going to be always, at a disadvantage versus the larger silos, because they're not going to be able to make money as well. And so really when I was at Medium, actually Medium tried to do ads as well, and the result we're getting were not that good. And so we came out with the idea of doing a membership model, and maybe we'll talk about this, but it worked actually much better than what I anticipated, at least initially. And that made me realize, like, okay, there's actually an alternate to attention. It's called memberships. And I want to build this as the next business model for the internet. And that's when I discovered, the concept of Web3. At the time, it wasn't called Web3, but blockchain, etc. And that's how I ended up building Unlock.
Okay, yeah. You just actually alluded to what I want to get to next. I listened to several of your previous podcasts where it's actually how I was captured. I guess your vision of Unlock. You talk about the notion of membership versus attention economy, which is obviously it's a hot topic, and we're all kind of sick of it in certain respects. We're all too familiar with the fact that the main currency today is human attention. So it resonated with me greatly because I feel like there's really true value in your project's purpose. So empowering creators and members versus treating them as a commodity, which is what your website says. Tell us about this more.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, attention is, it's obviously there's a lot of a lot of time thinking these days about stuff that we've considered as normal that are actually not normal. And if you think about, global warming, it's a consequence of our very, very strong dependence on the carbon economy in that way. And I think we're seeing the same kind of thing around the attention economy, where we're slowly start to realize like how dangerous it is and how destroying it is in many ways. So yes, it has some benefits. It makes everything free, and we can talk actually about this at some point because I actually don't think that's this true. Mm-hmm. But it has a lot of consequences around how we collectively behave as groups, because all of a sudden the content, the information that bubbles up to the top, that is visible by everyone, is the one that actually gathers the most attention. It's not necessarily the most true. It's not necessarily the most useful. It's not necessarily the most actionable.
Yes.
All over Europe right now, there's, same as in the US, a lot of let's say political movements that are taking control of some countries, and whatever people can think of these, their success is actually rooted on the fact that they're able to kind of leverage that attention in ways that are not always, again, rooted in reality or in truth. And so that create a lot of tension rather than actually solve problems. And this all comes back to, again, the fact that the content, the information that is the most monetizable is the one that actually is gathering the most information. It doesn't matter if it's true. It doesn't matter if it's helping people, be smarter, make better decisions. It is the one that actually creates the most attention. Mm. And so for me, that creates a lot of problem. It creates problem for creators because the one that are creating valuable content are actually not able to be monetized. If you think about journalism, writing long pieces is not making a lot of money. You have to write hit pieces, the one that are actually creating debate more than creating consensus in some ways. When we need consensus to work as societies, it creates issues for consumers. It means that it actually is hard to find information because when you do a search on the social networks or even on Google, the stuff that will bubble up the first is not necessarily the most useful or the truest thing. It's the thing that is actually the most monetizable because it's grabbing attention. Mm-hmm. It creates, all of the political problem that we've discussed earlier. And I think it also creates economical issues. The fact that the internet now is being dominated, and not just the internet, actually, most economies is being dominated by a very small number of actors, is a direct consequence of this. These companies are the one that are best able to farm attention. And they're the one actually who end up deciding of our fate in many more ways that I think people realize already. Yeah,
with the content, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so then in terms of membership economy, and let's try to merge then the NFT concept. So for most people, NFTs, I'm just talking in general, mostly what NFTs represent are the JPEGs, but there's obviously much more.
Yes.
The use cases for NFTs are growing and increasingly getting more and more interesting. So to sort of set the stage, can you share with us your view on NFT use cases beyond just the simple Bored Apes?
Yeah, absolutely.
And go from there.
Absolutely. And it's hard because a lot of people really see the monkey and don't see the thing behind the monkey.
Yes.
The way I think of NFTs, when I tell people, when people ask me hey, what's an NFT? I tell them, of course, there is a visual aspect. Pretty much everything that we think has to be visually identifiable. But the right way to think of an NFT is almost in the same way that you think of a website. What's a website? And everybody has a website is a thing you go to on the internet. Well, an NFT is a thing that represents something on the internet in that way.
Right.
A website can be, a content site, we said earlier, like a New York Times, or it can be an e-commerce site, Amazon, or even a small Shopify store. It can be a blog, it can be a game, it can be an application. All of these are websites. NFTs, you have to think of it the same way. An NFT is just a representation of something digital. And that's something, maybe the most interesting aspect, that it has to be unique. It is not forgeable. So when you think about a monkey picture that we talked about, it's a representation of a specific picture, and more importantly, it says who owns that specific picture from a smart contract perspective, and that itself is something that we probably need to define. And that's it. And so the NFT creates an easy way to identify, objects in real life from a computer. If it had a digital representation, would be through probably an NFT, because it has a unique identifier that can be linked to the physical piece. It is a way to represent also concepts. For example, a diploma. A diploma, you might have a paper version of the diploma. An NFT is actually a good way to represent a diploma, because it's unique. It's something that belongs to you, that was granted to you by a school or by some kind of university, and now is a good way to represent this in a digital version. What I think is that NFTs are also a very, very good tool to represent memberships, to represent that someone is a member of a group. And so that membership thing might be just people that have access to content. So let's say a musician put their music online, they might want to have their own membership group or their own members, and say, hey, only members are able to access my content. And the easy way to identify them, rather than actually have a database of email addresses or whatever that is, would be to say, hey, anyone who has an NFT, whenever they show up on my site, I'll give them access to the music. It's also a software license. If you think about using Photoshop, the people that use Photoshop are themselves members of a group, a special group of people, and the people that have a software license to access Photoshop. So really, NFTs, yes, they have a visual representation, but it's not necessarily the most important thing. At least not for the use cases where NFTs are not collectible, which has been the thing that we all seen in the last year and a half.
What about the argument that NFTs can be exclusive? So, you talk about memberships, you automatically think, it's a good thing, but what about the fact that they can be only for a select few or select percent? Do you actually consider this, or are you attempting to reach a wider audience at this point with your protocol? Or
we're absolutely attempting to reach a wider audience, because yes, there's going to be expensive NFTs in the same way that the membership to some very fancy club in New York City is exclusive. But at the same time, the gym membership to the local sports club is pretty much cheaper and a lot more accessible. And they're all, if you think about this, memberships are, it's the same object. It's a membership. One of them might be expensive, one of them might be cheap.
Right.
One of them might be unlimited in supply. The musician that I described earlier putting the music on their website might not want to have a cap on the number of members. Say, hey, I want to have as many as I want, as I can. And so there's no cap. But some other clubs are much more exclusive. There's going to be at most 100 people that can do X, Y, and Z. They can be earned also, because example that here they're purchased. But I think the diploma actually is a membership. You think about this. A diploma to a school is something that, yes, in some school you actually pay to at least attend, but
True.
In some others you might not pay that much and earn the thing in the end. And it's something that is, you don't have to pay for. It's something that you earn because you've done certain things. Your driver license, again, you might pay a little bit to get it, but it's actually not the biggest barrier. It's not how much you pay. It's like, did you actually get the driving exam, and did you get, did the inspector say, hey, you drove well enough that I give you the driver license? And it's a membership. You're a member of the drivers of a specific country in that scenario. So I think if you think about membership as a primitive, there's many kinds. Some of them will be exclusive, others will not. However, one thing that I want to say is, like, if you think about back to the creator economy, or the membership economy versus the attention economy. In the attention economy, it's really, really hard to make a living if you're outside of the mainstream. We've all seen let's take music again as an example. We've all seen the long tail of revenue on Spotify. A very small number of musicians make a lot of money. The ones that are being listened, millions or tens or hundreds of millions of times. And then a long tail of people that are getting, thousands of listens per day are actually not making a lot of not money at all, or they're making a couple cents a day at best.
Right.
And so while in practice, these people, they might have 100 true fans, 1,000 true fans that would be willing to pay, $10 or $20 a month to support them. And right now, the attention economy makes it impossible for them to actually capture this the value that they create for a small number of fans, because the only way to actually capture value is to be listened by everyone. And so that creates kind of this culture of mainstream things versus just very different niche of people that care about different things.
Yeah, no. In terms of membership, it's a broad spectrum. I mean, it's just like how we have it today.
Yep.
But at the same time, with NFTs, you are solving the problem of the creator ownership, really.
Absolutely. Yep.
So if I read correctly, you started. Let's shift gears to Unlock.
Yes.
You started developing the idea in 2018.
Yes, absolutely. So the idea started to come in my mind when I was at Medium, and actually that's a thing that I wanted Medium to do, and Medium didn't actually do that, so I decided to leave and create my own version of this. Mm-hmm. But basically, it's the idea that, so when Medium did their membership program and it worked better than I thought, I realized Medium does it. Anybody can do this. Blockchain Recorded could have its own membership. A small writer on his blog could have its own membership. A small indie game developer could have its own membership and offer, perks in the games to people that purchase this. But for everyone to do this, we need to simplify. And more than simplify, we need to standardize. We need to make it work the same across the web. One of the examples that I thought a lot about at the time, and I still think a lot about, is the App Store. Before Apple came up with the App Store, the number of people who are paying for software was actually very, very low. Most people didn't have, Photoshop or Microsoft Office, or they would download pirated versions. But after the App Store, all of a sudden, everybody was buying software. It was $1 here, $1 there, $5 for this in-app purchase. So much so that at this point, I think more than 50% of iOS users actually spend, I think, more than $10 a month on the App Store. So now everybody pays for software. And you move from a world where very small number of people pay for software through very large, organization companies, to a world where a lot of people are able to pay for this. And I was thinking, hey, can we actually make memberships easy enough that we would actually have the same thing, where lots of small indie creators would be able to actually make a little money, or maybe a decent amount of money, by selling membership to their fans and making it easy enough for these fans to actually purchase these memberships.
2018 was the ERC 721 Ethereum non-fungible token standard active?
It was becoming a thing. It wasn't active. I mean, it was becoming a thing. Yeah. So CryptoPunks, the first NFTs are actually not ERC 721. CryptoKitties, which, made a bunch of noise late 2017, was the beginning of ERC 721.
So in terms of Unlock, if I quote your website, it goes something like this: Unlock for creative communities and the humans who build them. So to go further, Unlock is an open source and community protocol for memberships. Users can create memberships and sell access through NFTs, just what we talked about. So let's just, if we can go through it. So first, who are users? Who are customers? Maybe you can shed some light over there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two questions here. Who are users? Well, in the end, It should be everyone. It should be, you, when you get Amazon Prime membership, you would be a user of Unlock. Amazon would be a user of Unlock also in that scenario.
Yeah, we talked about this actually during our first conversation,
yes,
right? Amazon Prime locks.
Yes, I mean,
and you unlock.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about Amazon Prime, right? This is a membership. Obviously, it's called the Prime membership. It's a membership. It's one that you pay every month.
Yeah.
It is not exclusive. I mean, it might be expensive, but at least in the US, I think there's 100 million household that are members. So it's, at this point, it's
like a standard,
Yeah, it's a standard thing that most families get. It is actually not visual. It doesn't have an image. You don't know what an Amazon Prime membership looks like. I know I have one because it's in my wallet when I go check out. Actually, maybe I know what I have. Like, for people that are in the US that listen to me, they know that if you go to Whole Foods, you can actually show your Amazon Prime membership, and it looks like a QR code inside of the Amazon app. So it doesn't really have a fancy picture of a monkey specifically here. So it's a membership, and it could be an NFT. And the reason why it would be good to be an NFT is because now I can go anywhere and show it. Right now, the only way I can show it is if I download the Amazon app, and the people on the other side are able to read the Amazon app, which is not obvious. But if it's an NFT in my wallet, I can actually go to a random store and say, hey, look, I'm an Amazon Prime member, give me some benefits if the store wants to open them. But anyway, going back to your question, who are the users? So in the end, it's, who are the users of HTTP? Who are the users of websites? Well, everyone. Who are the customers? That's a bigger question. Same, we're building the protocol exactly like you think about HTTP or these. It's open source, everybody can use this. But I do think that our first set of users are early adopters, and more importantly, they're developers. There are people that are actually building application experiences for other people to consume. So in the same way that we all use HTTP, the customers of HTTP are probably the developers that are building websites for other people to use down the line. So it's actually a very similar approach here.
Your website also talks about or mentions token gating, memberships, what we just talked about, ticketing, and so on. Can you maybe talk about each feature just a bit to clarify?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you think about a membership, usually it gives you benefits, right? A membership that doesn't give you benefits is not that useful.
Right.
And the benefits can be accessing stuff that other people can't access. That's the token gating mechanism that we described. So on a website, there is basically, a paywall, and you can go behind the paywall if you prove that you own a specific NFT. Ticketing, it's the same idea, right? If I have a ticket to a concert, well, the concert is token gated. Basically, I cannot enter the venue unless I prove that I have a ticket. So it's the same, kind of benefits. But there's also kind of benefits. For example, you can think of people built a Shopify integration where benefits include discounts. So if I have a specific NFT in my wallet, instead of paying the full price for a product, or instead of paying, instead of paying the full price for a product, then I get a discount, or maybe I get access to a catalog of product that is only available for members. People that don't actually have the NFT cannot access these. So these are the kind of benefits that memberships offer. One of the other benefit, and we're going back to the A picture, is actually the fact that it's visual. When I was at Medium and we did the membership program, when we asked people why they paid for, an answer that was coming a lot was the green halo around the avatar. And so that's a benefit. It doesn't let you do something special. It makes you look different. And so the status itself is a big part of the memberships.
The Blockchain Recorded podcast is a media partner with the Stronger Together Challenge Initiative. Our collaborative role extends to hosting topic-specific panels to facilitate discussion and perspectives within varying industries related to the Web3 space. Let us have a few words with Laurent Perello, the initiative founder. Laurent, what is the Stronger Together Challenge Initiative?
First, we have to mention that it's an ecosystem initiative. In other words, a voluntary movement encompassing leading partners and projects of the Tron and BitTorrent chain ecosystem.
What are the main goals of this initiative?
The main goal is to demonstrate the powerful together effect. As I used to say, together is much more than a word. It's magic. We aim to show to the whole crypto industry and beyond that the Web3 revolution is not about competition, but rather about cooperation. We are really supportive, welcoming, open-minded and inclusive. It's not a marketing speech. This initiative is also a way to confirm our long-term commitment, regardless of the bear or bull market situation, and our determination to keep on building every day, guided by a long-term vision and a humanistic philosophy.
Thanks, Laurent, for illustrating what Stronger Together stands for. Season 1 of the initiative successfully ended, while Season 2 is planned to start in December. Let me also mention that panels will be celebrated by NFT airdrops. Stay tuned for further updates. Just a word about the aim for NFTs integrating to different platforms. So with Unlock, in terms of cross-platform interoperability, just to have a mouthful, what does that mean? How does it work? And where are you in terms of that concept?
Absolutely. And that's a critical concept of Web3 more than Unlock specifically. So it means that basically the membership exists in a neutral space. Instead of being something that is stored in a database hosted by a specific company, the NFT exists on a blockchain that anybody can access, anybody can read, in a way that makes it possible for two applications to leverage the information without actually even knowing about each other. So let's take another example. On my blog, I have a little membership. Obviously, if you have one of these NFTs, you can read some articles. If you don't have it, you can't read the article. But I've also built another application that's basically a Discord bot that if you have my NFT from my blog, the same, then you can access a specific channel on Discord. And really that's the cross-platform aspect here, because my blog can disappear tomorrow. The people that have access to Discord will still be able to access this because the NFT itself is not stored on the blog, it's not stored on Discord, it's stored in the chain on a different location. What's more interesting even is that you, Nina, could say, hey, I'm going to create a forum on a website. And it will only give access to people that have Julien's membership. And in that way, you don't even have to ask my permission. You can say, hey, I can verify on-chain. When people come visit my forum, I'll ask them to connect their wallet so I can authenticate them. I can identify who they are. And then I can check on-chain whether they have one of Julien's NFT. And if they do, then I'll show them the content. If they don't, I will not show them the content. And really, that kind of multiplayer membership is really something that for me is critical and really, really interesting. Imagine a scenario where I am Starbucks. I have a membership NFT. Now, anyone that has a membership NFT can show up in my, coffee shops, and they'll get a discount or they'll get some specific perks. But now another company, say Delta Airlines, say, hey, we really like Starbucks members. What if for anybody who's a Starbucks member, when they fly with Delta, we'll give them a free coffee. That completely changes the experience around the loyalty program. Now, Starbucks might say, hey, this is great. Like Delta has this perk. They don't have to actually share information. They don't have to share a list of users or a list of customers. That would actually be illegal in many places because of GDPR and a bunch of regulation. But anyone on the flight can actually prove to Delta that they own a Starbucks NFT and then get a free coffee for the flight.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So my question is, you talk about this conceptually, but then I'm trying to actually picture myself, having this NFT and actually using it. Just as a layperson, I'm always concerned with security and privacy.
Yeah.
Just adding a different layer now. How do you deal with this issue? Or if you even have, are there any common security risks when dealing with this?
Yeah, absolutely. So security would be basically someone steals your wallet and then uses your memberships to access content. And that's the same risk as
if you're like a physical wallet.
Like a physical wallet, exactly right. That's the number one risk. Mm-hmm. And obviously there's, multiple crypto wallets. Some of them are more secure than others. But all of these things are not specific about unlock and mm-hmm. Hopefully that's also something that the ecosystem altogether is improving and making progress on. So there's that. One thing that we've built in though into the NFTs themselves, and that's the NFT memberships, and it's completely optional, is that we've decoupled ownership from transfer rights.
Okay.
So you could have in your wallet an NFT that cannot be transferred from the wallet directly, but can only be transferred by another wallet. So you can say, hey, it's my hot wallet. I can go around, and if somebody steals my hot wallet, it's okay because the transfer rights are actually stored on my, cold wallet, my hardware wallet, or on a multisig, or even maybe through a trusted third party. So that when I lose my public key, or somebody else accesses it, my private key, mm-hmm. then they can transfer all of my membership to another wallet of mine, and I can still use them wherever I go without anybody being able to actually steal them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So that's one of the aspects around security. The other thing that you mentioned is privacy, and this one is also a pretty significant thing that we're thinking a lot about. Not just us, but the whole space is like, as I said, right now, the way to go to a website would be to show your wallet, and basically they would see that you have a specific membership. They would see all of the membership that you have, and maybe even all of the funds that you've had. So we're trying to actually prove a system, and it's doable, just that we haven't had the time to implement it. A system where instead of actually showing my wallet, I can show a proof of ownership of a specific NFT. So I would go to your website, I would say, hey, here's a proof that I have a Julien membership. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to read that, you'd be able to verify this, but you wouldn't know which of the Julien members I am.
Makes sense.
And so that improves privacy significantly.
Mm-hmm. So let's dive more into the technicals of Unlock.
Yes.
As I understand, you deployed your first smart contract on Ethereum mainnet.
Yes.
Probably back at the time when gas fees were not
much lower. I mean, they were a thing, but there was always a thing. But But nobody cared or nobody worried too much about that. Yes.
Well, when the Ethereum transaction prices skyrocketed, most of the projects were searching for alternatives.
Yep.
What was your alternative L1 solution?
Yeah. So initially we were a bit bummed because I deeply believe that we want the use case of Unlock to exist on blockchains, and if they're all going to end up very expensive, it's going to be a nightmare because nobody can ever do these cheap, $1 or sub-dollar membership without actually paying, a significant share of that, even more than that sometimes, in gas. So the first that we've seen emerge is a blockchain called, at the time was called XDAI, now it's called Gnosis Chain, and we deployed Unlock there. And the good thing about Unlock is a set of smart contracts that are using Solidity basically, and then compiled to the EVM, the Ethereum virtual machine, so it can be deployed anywhere where that works. So initially we went to XDAI, which is now called Gnosis Chain, then we added Polygon, then now we're on Optimism, Arbitrum, Avalanche, Celo, Binance Chain. Our goal is to be everywhere. It's not our choice. It's like we're not choosing where people deploy their smart contracts. You as a creator choose where you want to go. We actually have a couple recommendations, or we have advice. So it's like, hey, this is a cheap one, you should go on this. It's an expensive one, maybe you can go on mainnet. And we're also building the tools to actually make it really easy for people to not have to worry about what chain they're on and where they're going to pay gas. We're trying to build right now what we call cross-platform membership, cross-chain memberships, which is basically a way to say, I'm going to pay on one chain and then get the NFT on another chain. It doesn't actually matter because I can easily pay where I'm at and then get the NFT because my wallet address is the same across multiple chains.
This is what you're doing now, or this is what you're trying to develop now, or is it already working?
So it is currently being developed. And that's a feature of the core protocol that we hope to have by the end of the year.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So how transaction heavy is your solution for the user? I mean, you did talk about all the different alternatives, but just to sort of talk about the transaction part.
So users will make probably one single transaction, members, the one that they use to buy a membership. And so that's the only thing that they ever need to do is like, okay, I will buy the membership. Obviously, if this is a recurring membership, they might have to do it every month, or they do two at the beginning. They approve, doing it 10 times, and then they do the first one, and then the 9 next ones are going to be done by the network automatically. So from my perspective, it actually is not that heavy for most users. They will do one transaction once in a while, in the same way that you pay for New York Times once a month, and that's it. You do that in the beginning, and then it should become automatic after this. You don't have to remember or have to do it again explicitly.
Okay. Back to sort of what I mentioned, or I asked you about the EVM standard. I suppose all EVM chains use the same NFT standard, right? What about other ecosystems like Polkadot or Solana or Cosmos?
Yeah, so we're not there yet because we're still a pretty small team and we would have to kind of redevelop the smart contracts everywhere. I can imagine a world in which at some point, Unlock exists on Polkadot, Solana, Cosmos. We actually have people that have asked for this. Hopefully this is also something that somebody else can contribute. Unlock is completely open source. There's nothing that prevents anyone from saying, hey, I want this to exist on, you mentioned a few near, I'll deploy it. My goal would be for that to happen. My sense, though, is that at this point, a lot of the developer ecosystem is actually much bigger on the EVM ecosystem than it is anywhere else. And then any day that passes, that advance increases. So as much as I think it's possible to be anywhere, for now it's not a focus of ours because it would actually require a lot of effort for an unclear gain down the line.
You also have an Unlock token, right? As a governance token,
yes.
UDT. So can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. So one of my deep convictions is like open source until now was really, really hard to govern. If you go back 5, 10, 20, 50, almost 50, 30 years ago, open source projects were usually led by a few benevolent people that are, willing to do the work of supporting the software that they created. And a lot of other people are reaping the benefits of this. If you think about the web stack, the internet, everything, a lot of it is open source. Very few people contribute to this. A couple of years ago, we had a big scare with the Heartbleed vulnerability, which was discovered in a critical, layer of security in the internet that almost, took down many websites. That was coming because we didn't have good governance for open source project. It was really hard for anyone to actually contribute to get a share of ownership and make these things better. I think one of the things that crypto brings to the table is the ability to have these public goods, because open source projects are eventually public goods, to be collectively governed as well if the initial creators want it. And that's something we wanted to do for Unlock. We really want to say, okay, cool, we're building this, but we're not building it for us. We're building it for everyone else. We're building for us and everybody else who wants to use this. But our goal is that everybody who wants to use this shouldn't be relying on us. They should be able to get a stake an ownership stake in how the protocol works, how the protocol spends some of its funds, because the protocol has a little treasury, how the protocol should reward some participants or incentivize other participants to actually use it. And so we built the governance token, it's called UDT, at the core of the protocol. If you're not a crypto person, you can almost think of it as an airline miles program, where when you fly with an airline, every time you accrue some miles, these miles in airlines allow you to get cheap tickets. In Unlock and in many DAOs, these miles that you accrue allow you to actually vote on where the airline should fly next, and vote on what kind of plane they should buy or what kind of food they serve. So it gives you governance rights around how the protocol works itself.
And I went through also, when I was reading your website, your blog, so Unlock DAO was launched in 2021, right?
Yes.
Is it fully decentralized and run by your community or users, or is that still sort of...
So the DAO is actually fully decentralized. The DAO is a smart contract on the blockchain. It's called a governor contract, and then people can submit proposal, and then other people can vote on these proposals. And if enough people vote on this proposal, they get executed, and
yes.
I or nobody else can prevent this from happening. What is not fully decentralized yet, I guess, is the token supply. We still own a majority of the tokens. And the reason for this is because I think we're still early, and our goal is to distribute them to people that are building rather than just randomly put them out there for people to grab. So we've been a bit slow to distribute these because we try to really distribute these along with the growth. Say, okay, if you're building some cool things, you should apply for a grant. We actually have a distributed grant committee, so other committee members can approve the grant, and at that point, if you execute on your proposal, then you'll get paid. You'll receive some governance token as a reward for your work.
And you collaborated with Tally, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes. So Tally provides us the front end for the DAO, like it does for a lot of these things.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually had Dennison on our podcast too, so it was actually very
nice. Yeah.
Very cool to talk to him. Yeah, it's nice to talk to different actors of the formula, right? And just and have these conversations and make things or make sense out of everything.
Yeah, one of the things that I really love about the blockchain crypto ecosystem is really kind of the collaborativeness. Like there's a ton of so it's actually the Unix philosophy. If people are technical when they listen to this, so the Unix philosophy is like do one thing well.
Yeah.
And so that's why when you use the command line, there's a large number of very small tools like to copy a file, to delete a file, to cat, which is display a file, and so the Unix philosophy is like, okay, do each little piece of code should do one thing really well. And the crypto ecosystem is kind of like this, where there's a ton of very small, very narrow thing that should do it well and then integrate with the rest. And that's kind of what I like about the ecosystem. And Dennison and Tally are building some really, really cool stuff around governance. Feels very niche and narrow, but then it really is something that empowers Unlock, for example, to actually have its own governance program, rather than us building a full UI plus smart contract that would leverage this.
Yeah, and also for people who are listening, right? Every time we have a conversation about something, it just reiterates the theme more and more and connects the dots more and more. And just what you said, collaboration, I mean, it's part of human nature. So must not forget about that part.
Yeah.
I wanted to just move on to ask you about, so Unlock's roadmap. I told you briefly before we started the call that I listened to your community call about Flocker.
Yep.
So Flocker?
What is Flocker? Yeah. What is Flocker? So we've built the core protocol, and we're still building. As I said, for example, the cross-chain purchase is one of the mechanisms that's coming. At the same time, we're also trying to show what kind of tools people can build and why Unlock as a protocol is useful. The last few weeks have been pretty intense at Twitter, and there is
You don't say.
I don't, right? And then one thing that I started to realize, so people are saying, oh, we should use Mastodon, and Mastodon is great, or they should use some other Twitter clone that are emerging left and right. The problem, though, is when we go use these things, we're just doing more of the same. We're just, replicating the same model that Twitter had to some other place. Mm-hmm. And I know Mastodon is using some different mechanism around federation, but it's still kind of the same, where in practice, your data is stored on a specific instance of Mastodon or a specific instance of a clone. And then if that goes away, or if this is mismanaged, well, you've lost your social graph. So we've tried to build a tool called Flocker, whose only goal is to say, hey, your social graph should actually exist on a chain. So you think about the social graph, it's a membership people that follow me on Twitter are my members. It's kind of a weird way to frame it, but they're members of the group of people that follow me on Twitter. And so we created Flocker as a simple app for anyone, whether without a wallet, whether without gas or money to pay for gas, can deploy a membership contract and then invite all of their followers on Twitter specifically to kind of flock with them by claiming one of these memberships. And then what we show is really kind of the cross-platformness, because there is already in the ecosystem a dozen applications that you can use right today to actually token content just for people that have claimed your membership. So I deploy my membership contract, and then I can actually go publish on paragraph.xyz, which is kind of a Substack clone that it uses, Web3, so wallets and NFTs to authenticate and authorize people. I can also use guild.xyz to create a Telegram channel and say, hey, only the people that have my NFT in their wallet can actually access this. I can use beam.xyz, which is a video streaming tool, to only stream my video to people that have claimed one of my membership NFTs. And really for me, that's the power of Web3. It's like showing that we've decoupled the applications, all of the names that I just mentioned and more obviously, from the underlying data, which is the membership state and status.
And you're the one that owns your followers, and you're the one that owns your data, and that data and follower, whatever, in whatever shape or form, travels with you. And that's how it should. And it should flock.
Yeah, it should flock, exactly. So it travels with me. Like, yes, it's a way to thesis, but it actually doesn't travel. Like, it doesn't get stuck on any of these things. It sits on the blockchain, and any application can easily hook into that. It doesn't actually travel. It's all there on the blockchain and can be leveraged by any of these applications. Just
conceptually, I'm just thinking front end wise, right? Just as a user, you think, I'll take everyone with me, right?
Yep, exactly right. Yeah, exactly. And it's basically they're with you wherever you go.
Yes. Rather
than on this other database that I don't have access to because that website went down or because I decided to stop using it or XYZ.
You mentioned Mastodon. The only way I'm familiar with it is so it's more of a open source software, right? In terms of for running self-hosted social networking services, but it's also its own actual service?
So yeah, exactly. So Mastodon it's actually again, I don't want to dismiss it. It's actually a very powerful tool, and it's really in the vein of what I built before at Superfeeder and all these things. It uses this protocol called ActivityPub, and basically acts as a small Twitter that supports what is called federation, which in practice means that I can follow somebody who is using another server somewhere. And so you have this so-called Fediverse where many multiple very small Twitters can actually interact with one another. It works in the same way that email works, where I can use Gmail and use Hotmail, and I'm still able to send you an email rather than just be stuck on a specific platform. So Mastodon is, if you want, the email protocols apply to something like Twitter.
Back to your roadmap. You talked about Flocker.
Yes.
Is there anything else that you can disclose or talk to us about in terms of what's next in the upcoming months, year?
Absolutely. So we've built Flocker. That's one of the applications. We're also making progress on the protocol. So the protocol we're making 4 different things right now. Cross-chain purchases, I mentioned this earlier. Swap and purchase, which is a cool one. It's the idea that, this membership is priced in a token that I don't have. So maybe even it's on Polygon, but it uses, a fancy token that I've never bought before. And I have USDC. Well, in one single transaction, I can swap my USDC into the fancy token into an NFT without actually having to go on Uniswap or any of these exchanges to do that. So that's a second thing that we're building. A third thing that we're building is what we call cross-chain governance. It's the idea that we have the DAO, you mentioned this, on mainnet, but we're on all of these small networks. How can we make decisions on mainnet that would apply to all of the but all of the other networks like Polygon, Optimism, Arbitrum, etc., etc. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing that we're building is introducing a new mechanism for the protocol that would allow for the protocol to capture a fee. So it's the idea that right now, if you're a creator and you deploy a membership and you say, hey, I'm going to charge 10 USDC, well, you're going to get 10 USDC no matter what. We want to add a mechanism, a fee switch, basically, that would allow the protocol to say, on any transaction that happens, the protocol captures, 0.1%, 1%, 5%, I don't know what it is, it's not my decision, so that we have a way to kind of keep funding the work of the protocol and keep making it sustainable in that way. And so that's the fourth mechanism we're going to introduce as part of the core protocol. Does Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That's awesome. You have your hands full.
Yes, absolutely. We're definitely very busy, very excited about what we're building. Despite all of the turbulence in the crypto space, which I'm sure you've heard of as well.
Sure.
We're more excited than ever because it's pretty obvious that the last bull market has brought tens of millions of people to the Web3 space.
Right.
And now we get, an opportunity to convert these tens of millions of people to becoming more active users rather than just speculators.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's growing pains, right? I mean, you have to weed out the bad actors, and that's just how every sort of revolution happens in evolution. So it's a cycle. So we just have to...
It's a cycle. It's a very iterative process. Sometimes it's frustrating. And honestly, I feel the pain of all of the people that lost money in some of these scams, because let's call them what they are. They are scams.
They are scams. Yeah.
My plea is that we change the mindset. I think it's we change the mindset around looking at how things work, using the things, rather than actually tell about the magic things that it could do. One thing that I'm really, really proud of what Unlock has done is we're very transparent. We do what we say, and we say what we do, and it actually works the way. We're not selling moon things. We're not saying, oh, this is going to be no. This is what we've done today. You can actually use it today. You can play with this, and it works as advertised. We're not trying to kind of sell something that doesn't exist yet. And I really want people in the ecosystem to focus more on that rather than just look at the fancy speculative things that look really nice or could do something really cool, but actually are not working or not even usable at all today.
Right. Well, you have a concrete solution. You have use cases for it. You're just continuing. So it's a completely different story than the financial speculation. So
absolutely.
We just have to keep plugging along. I wanted to ask you, I know this has been mentioned, but I think it's important. You have a grant program.
Yes.
I mean, there are many teams out there that are looking for opportunities despite the market turbulation. What are some interesting development opportunities or things that you see that need to be developed?
Yeah, so more integration. So I talked about Paragraph, I highlight about the DCs, but we have a WordPress plugin actually, and a second team actually created another WordPress plugin. This is good. I want to see plugins in Mastodon, we mentioned earlier, in Tumblr. I want to see plugins for Zoom. Maybe there's actually a way to actually do token gated Zooms where only people that have a specific NFTs can actually watch Zoom, a specific Zoom.
Right.
I want to see people create, podcasting platform that are token gated. Hey, the first half of the podcast is free for everyone. The second half is, you can only access if you have a specific NFT in your wallet. So these are just a small subset of ideas, but honestly, it's really up to you. My plea to developers, be creative. Think of something that you want to build, get started with it, reach out to us, apply for a grant. Don't want to say it's easy to get a grant because you should do something real, but honestly, if you do something real, we'd love to actually do it with you and help you in any way we can.
Well, this is awesome. Thanks, Julien. Are there any, I think we're wrapping up, in terms of final thoughts, is there anything that I haven't asked that you'd want to share, or maybe topics to add or build on something that we didn't touch upon?
Yeah, no, I think, again, what we just talked about a couple of minutes ago, start using things. Dogfooding is a big part of what we do.
Yeah.
If you are into Web3, if you think this is interesting, don't just talk the talk, walk the talk. Do actually, I'm sure you have a wallet, and you should have a wallet if you're interested in this. Download the wallet, I was going to say unlock things deploy a membership contract on, Polygon. It's cheap. It takes a couple seconds. It's going to cost you less than a cent in gas. It shouldn't be a big deal. Maybe buy a membership for somebody else. Maybe it's okay, $5. I don't want to say spend on my blog because I don't want you to pay for my blog specifically, but I come to the Unlock Discord. We have a ton of examples that you can play with. Do that because it's a way for you to kind of realize, okay, this is how it works, and this is what I could do next as a member, as a designer, as a developer, as a marketer. This is how I would use this, and these are the kind of thing that I want to do next.
Awesome. Well, you guys are very active. You have your Twitter Spaces calls, you have your channel, you have all kinds of things. In terms of, this is just a cliche question, but what's the best place for people to follow you or get in touch? Or
so follow unlock-protocol.com. Come to the website. Join the Discord. I think it's the next step. When you do this, you're actually gonna have to claim a free Unlock membership NFT, the community membership, and that's a good way to actually try that. I said we're also on a bunch of social networks. You'll find the links on the unlock-protocol.com website. GitHub. This is definitely a place where I would want to see more engagement. We do actually have on a weekly basis now people opening pull requests, opening issues. The more the merrier. If you're a developer, there's also a couple bounties on there, so feel free to look at these. And personally, find me on my blog ouvreboite, OUVRE-BOITE.com, or Julien51 anywhere online.
Well, awesome. Julien, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's refreshing to talk about not only useful solutions, but solutions that are useful and part of a systemic change. I would actually say in our evolving network society, if I can borrow a term that, thanks to a previous guest of mine on my podcast, and the fact that they are community driven, right? And growing in a healthy and transparent direction, just what you alluded to in the midst of current market challenges. So keep it up. We'll surely follow your work. And thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. And please keep doing the podcast. I love it.
Oh, thanks, Julien. Thanks again to our guest, as well as thank you everyone for listening. A big thanks goes to Coin Market League for co-sponsoring this episode. Thank you also to the Baria Music team for providing their music. You can check out their latest album on bariamusic.com. You can find all supporting information on our website, blockchainrecorded.com, and listen to us on Google, Apple, and Amazon podcasts, as well as Spotify, Radio Public, and Stitcher. Stay healthy and tuned for our next episode.